Epictetus, mental energy. We live in an age of exhaustion. It's a strange, creeping fatigue that has little to do with how much we've slept or how hard we've worked physically. It's a mental drain, a cognitive fog that descends even on quiet days. You know the feeling. You finish a day at the office where you barely left your chair, yet you feel as if you've run a marathon. You spend a weekend supposedly relaxing, but by Sunday night, your mind is buzzing with a low-grade anxiety, a sense of being overwhelmed and completely spent. Where does all that energy go? It's not vanishing into thin air. It's being actively, systematically, and often unconsciously squandered. It's being poured into a bottomless pit of mental battles we were never meant to fight, let alone win. This is the core of our modern malaise. We are hemorrhaging our most precious, non-renewable resource, our mental and emotional energy, on things that are fundamentally, unchangeably outside of our control. Now imagine if you could plug that leak. Imagine if you could identify the exact sources of that drain and, with a simple, decisive action, redirect that torrent of wasted energy back into a reservoir of focused power, clarity, and peace. This isn't a futuristic fantasy or a complex psychological program. It's a 2,000-year-old framework, a tool so simple and yet so profound that it can fundamentally rewire how you experience your daily life. It comes to us from one of the most formidable minds of the ancient world, Epictetus, a man who knew a thing or two about adversity. Born a slave in the Roman Empire, he endured crippling physical abuse and the absolute lack of freedom, yet he became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers in history. His wisdom wasn't forged in an ivory tower, it was hammered out on the anvil of extreme hardship. And at the heart of his entire philosophy is a single, powerful distinction, the dichotomy of control. This isn't just an abstract concept, it's a brutally practical tool. Think of it as your personal effort ledger. Like a financial accountant meticulously tracking every dollar, this ledger tracks every unit of your mental energy. On one side, you have a column for things I can control. On the other, a column for things I cannot control. That's it. That's the entire system. The genius of Epictetus lies in the ruthless application of this filter to every thought, every worry, every ounce of effort you expend. The premise is startling. Almost all of our anxiety, frustration, anger, and despair comes from investing our energy in the second column. We spend our lives trying to manage the unmanageable, to change the unchangeable. We worry about what other people think of us. We get furious about the traffic. We ruminate over past mistakes we can never undo. We lose sleep over future outcomes that are ultimately uncertain. Each of these is an entry in the cannot control column, and each one is a massive, pointless withdrawal from our mental bank account. The power of this ledger is in the immediate, stark realization it provides. When you actually sit down and categorize your current worries, you will be shocked. You'll see that an estimated 99% of what occupies your mind, the mental real estate you give over to stress, falls squarely into that second column. It's a shocking diagnosis of our own self-inflicted exhaustion. But it's also incredibly liberating. Because the moment you identify a thought as belonging in the cannot control column, you are given a choice. You can continue to pour your life force into it, or you can consciously, deliberately let it go. You can acknowledge it, see it for what it is, an external fact like the weather, and then pivot your entire focus to the first column. This is where your power lies. This is the only place where your effort will ever yield a return. This single, simple trick of categorization isn't about ignoring reality or becoming passive. It's the exact opposite. It's about ceasing your futile war with reality so you can become incredibly, powerfully effective within it. It's about redirecting that 99% of wasted mental effort from the realm of anxious wishing to the realm of deliberate action. This is the path to reclaiming your focus, your peace, and your power. It starts with 2 columns. It starts with your effort ledger. And today, we are going to learn how to master it. The tyranny of the uncontrollable. Let's open our effort ledger and stare directly into the abyss. Let's examine that left-hand column, the one we've labeled Things I Cannot Control. This column is more than just a list, it's a tyrant. It's a shadow sovereign that has been ruling your inner world, demanding tribute in the form of your attention, your peace, and your energy. To reclaim your freedom, you must first understand the nature of your captor. What specifically resides in this column? The list is long and painfully familiar. First and foremost, other people. Their opinions of you, their moods, their decisions, their actions, their love, their approval, their betrayal. We spend a staggering amount of our lives trying to be puppet masters, subtly or overtly attempting to control the thoughts and feelings of those around us. We craft the perfect email hoping to elicit a specific response from our boss. We replay a conversation 100 times, wishing we could edit our words to change how a friend perceived us. We seethe with frustration when a family member doesn't take our advice. This is a losing game every single time. You can influence, you can persuade, you can present your case, but you can never, ever another person's internal world. Trying to do so is like trying to command the tides. It is the definition of wasted effort, a direct line to frustration and resentment. Next on the list in this tyrannical column is the past. The past is a ghost that haunts the majority of our waking moments. Every mistake you've ever made, every regret that stings in the quiet of the night, every embarrassing moment that makes you cringe years later, it all lives here. We mentally time travel, desperately wishing we could alter a decision, unsay a cruel word, or seize a missed opportunity. This rumination feels productive, as if by worrying about the past, we are somehow fixing it. But the past is sealed. It is a closed book. No amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. Spending your energy here is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. It drains your present vitality to fuel a fantasy of retroactive control, leaving you weaker and less capable of acting wisely. Then there's the flip side of the same coin, the future. Specifically, the outcomes of the future. We obsess over results. Will I get the promotion? Will this date go well? Will my project succeed? Will I stay healthy? This is not the same as planning or preparing. Those are actions which belong in the other column. This is the act of pure, untethered worry about the final score. The Stoics would say that you control the effort, not the outcome. You can prepare diligently for the job interview, but you cannot control the interviewer's mood, the other candidates, or the company's internal politics. Tying your emotional well-being to a specific outcome that is, by definition, outside of your total control is a recipe for perpetual anxiety. It turns life into a series of terrifying coin flips where your peace of mind is constantly at stake. And the list goes on. The economy, the stock market, the weather on your vacation, the fact that your flight is delayed, the driver who just cut you off in traffic, your genetic predispositions, the simple, unavoidable fact of aging and mortality. These are the fundamental conditions of existence, the very fabric of reality. To rage against them, to be consumed by frustration over them is, as the Stoics would say, to be like a dog tied to a cart being dragged along while thinking it is choosing the path. The cart is reality, and it is going where it is going. You can be dragged, kicking and screaming, or you can choose to walk alongside it. The energy expenditure is vastly different. Every moment you spend furious about the rain, you are robbing yourself of the energy you could use to find an umbrella and enjoy your day. Every second you waste fuming about a political decision you disagree with, you are draining the power you could use to volunteer, to vote, to write, to act within your sphere of influence. This column, this realm of the uncontrollable, is a mental prison, but the door is not locked. The key is simply to recognize that you are the one choosing to stay inside. The first step to freedom is to see the bars for what they are, illusions of control that you have the power to walk away from. Block 3. The kingdom of your control. Now let's turn the page of our ledger. Let's shift our gaze from the vast, chaotic, and uncontrollable ocean of the external world to a much smaller but infinitely more powerful domain. Welcome to the right-hand column, things I can control. If the left column was a tyranny, this one is your kingdom. It is your sovereign territory, your inner citadel, the one place in the entire universe where your will is absolute law. It may seem small and unassuming at first, but make no mistake, 100% of your power, your happiness, and your effectiveness resides right here. This is where you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the architect of your life. The Stoics called this the prohairesis, your faculty of choice, your volition. It's the director of your inner world. So what precisely is in this kingdom? What are the levers you actually have your hands on? The first and most important is your judgments, or what the Stoics called your assent to impressions. Things don't upset us. Our about things upset us. This is a revolutionary idea. A traffic jam is not inherently terrible. It is simply a collection of stationary cars. The label terrible is a judgment you add. A critical comment from your boss is not inherently devastating. It is simply a collection of words. The label devastating is a judgment you apply. This is the master key to emotional freedom. You cannot control the traffic, but you can absolutely control whether you choose to see it as a catastrophe or as an opportunity to listen to a podcast. You cannot control the criticism, but you can control whether you judge it as a personal attack or as potentially useful feedback. This is your first and most fundamental power, the power to interpret the events of your life. By consciously choosing your judgments, you seize control of your emotional responses. Nothing external can make you angry, anxious, or sad without your mind's permission, without your assent to the initial impression. Second within your kingdom are your choices and your actions. This is where your power becomes visible to the world. While you cannot control outcomes, you have absolute, undeniable control over your own efforts and behaviors. Think back to that job interview. You can't control if you get the job, but you control how many hours you spend researching the company. You can control whether you prepare thoughtful answers to common questions. You can control dressing professionally, arriving on time, and giving a firm handshake. You can control the quality of your follow-up email. You are the sole master of thee. This is an incredibly empowering shift. It moves your focus from the fickle whims of fortune to the solid ground of your own character and discipline. When you detach your self-worth from the outcome and attach it to the quality of your effort, you become psychologically invincible. You can fail to get the job and still walk away with your head held high, knowing you did everything within your power. You gave your absolute best. That is a victory that no one can ever take away from you. Third, and flowing directly from the first two, is your attitude and your response. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, famously wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." This is the ultimate expression of Stoic power. When faced with adversity, you cannot control the event itself, but you have total control over how you respond to it. Will you respond with panic or with poise? With resentment or with resilience? With despair or with dignity? This choice is always, always yours.
Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This is the muscle you build through practice. When someone is rude to you, you can choose to escalate the conflict, or you can choose to respond with calm indifference, preserving your own tranquility. When you face a setback, you can choose to see it as a disaster, or you can choose to see it as a lesson, a disadvantage to be turned to advantage, as Marcus Aurelius would say. This kingdom, your judgments, your actions, your attitude, is where you should invest 100% of your mental energy. It is the only investment with a guaranteed return. It is the source of all true strength, peace, and virtue.
Forging your effort ledger, the daily practice. We've explored the theory. We've dissected the two columns and understood the profound cost of living in one and the immense power of living in the other. Now it's time to move from philosophy to practice. This isn't an intellectual exercise to be admired. It's a tool to be used, a mental muscle to be forged through daily repetition. So, let's forge your effort ledger, right here, right now. I want you to grab a piece of paper, open a note-taking app on your phone, or just create a new document on your computer. Don't just listen, do this with me. Draw a line down the middle of the page. At the top of the left column, write, things I cannot control. At the top of the right, write, things I can control. This simple act is the first step toward reclaiming your mind. Now, take a moment. What is currently weighing on you? What's the primary source of stress or anxiety in your life right this second? Don't overthink it. Just write it down. Maybe it's a looming deadline at work. Maybe it's a conflict with your partner. Maybe it's a health concern or a financial worry. Got it? Good. Now we're going to perform a mental triage. We're going to dissect this worry and assign its components to the correct columns. Let's take a common example. You're worried about a major presentation you have to give to senior leadership next week. Let's start with the left column, the cannot control column. What aspects of this situation are completely outside of your hands? First, the final reaction of the audience. You cannot control if the CEO is in a bad mood that day, or if a key stakeholder is distracted by an urgent email. Write it down, the audience's mood and reaction. Second, the ultimate outcome. You cannot guarantee they will approve your proposal or praise your work. That decision is theirs, not yours. Write it down, the final decision outcome. What else? You can't control potential technical difficulties, the projector failing, the internet connection dropping. Write it down, unexpected technical glitches. You can't control whether a colleague asks a deliberately difficult question to make themselves look smart. Write it down, actions and motives of others. Look at that list. It's a collection of anxieties, a perfect storm of potential failures. And you have zero direct control over any of it. To spend your energy here is to shadowbox with ghosts. Now, let's turn to the right column, your kingdom of control. What can you do? This is where your power lies. You can control the quality and depth of your research. Write it down. Thoroughly research my topic. You can control how many times you practice your delivery. Write it down. Practice the presentation at least 5 times. You can control the design and clarity of your slides. Write it down. Create clear, compelling slides. You can anticipate difficult questions and prepare thoughtful answers. Write it down. Prepare for potential Q&A. You can control your physical state by getting a good night's sleep and eating a healthy breakfast. Write it down. Get 8 hours of sleep. You can control your mindset, choosing to see this as an opportunity, not a threat. Write it down. Adopt a confident, calm mindset. Look at the 2 columns now. The left is a passive list of worries. The right is an active, powerful to-do list. The magic of the effort ledger is this.
By clearly separating the two, you give your brain permission to completely let go of the left column. It's not your job. Your job, your only job, is to execute on the right column with excellence. Focus on your actions and release your attachment to the outcomes. This is a daily practice. Make it a habit. At the beginning of each day, or when you feel anxiety rising, pull out your ledger. Identify the source of the stress and perform this triage. What is mine to control? What is not? This simple 2-minute exercise will radically shift your focus from bezpakoistvo to action. It is the art of transforming vague, overwhelming anxiety into a series of small, manageable, and controllable steps. This is not about apathy. It's about strategic focus. It's about conserving your most precious resource, your mental energy, and investing it only where it can produce a return. This is the core of Stoic wisdom, and it is the most practical tool you will ever find for building a life of resilience, purpose, and inner peace. Your ledger is waiting. Start today. Reclaim your mind.